Everyone, Sam and I are outside today and we're going to show you the beginning of our IBC container fences. If you don't know what an IBC container is, this is it. They're designed to hold large quantities of liquid or granules, and so this is kind of what it looks like. It's just a plastic container, food grade, that comes inside of these cages. And if you look at the bottom of these cages, there are some screws here, 2 screws in the front, and then a couple along the side here. And all you have to do is unscrew these. I used just a regular drill and unscrewed them all and pulled them off, and then this container will slip right out of this once the 2 bars are off. And then if you take the bottom piece off right here, then all you're left with is this cage right here. And so a pretty good example of this would be this container right here. I have pulled the cage off of it. So this is what the bulk container looks like when it's just the container and nothing else. And then I'll take you up front and I'll kind of show you what the regular cages look like. This right here is the bottom of the containers. And so this is the base that they sit on. So once you unscrew it, all the screws, this comes off in a separate piece than the cage, so that makes it really easy. So if you want it to be closed bottom, you could just leave this on, but I wanted my fencing to have direct ground contact. These are my IBC containers with the frames, and as you can see around my garden, I've kind of lined up the frames. They're 4 feet wide and they're 4 feet tall, so it makes a pretty good fence. And the reason that I've decided to give them open ground contact, which you can see, is because I'm going to fill them with all of the hay and straw that I used from the bedding. That is cool, Sam. From my rabbits and my ducks. So here's the hay bedding, and here's also some branches that I cut off my apple trees when I pruned them recently, some dill, random grasses from me weeding. So I decided not only can I do a pretty good fence here with each container, and I can solve the plastic part to work on my cracky method and kind of perfect it in large containers, but also I'm using them to create things like duck houses. So the plastic part of the container are really cool. But I wanted to also make do with these cages. So here it is, a pretty cool fence, and this is kind of acts. At first I thought it could be a compost, but what I'm thinking is that I'm going to go ahead and continue filling it about 3/4 of the way, and then put some soil on top of it and make it into a little garden bed. So it'll be a live fence. And so far I've started kind of grabbing some sticks right here, but also my grapevine has been growing out of control and taking over my blackberry bed. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and let my grapevine grow on these containers. So I've just been letting it grow. You can see how long it gets, and it'll kind of fill up this side to create a nice green fence. Here's the fencing kind of from far back. Remember, this is still very raw and unfinished because I just started putting it together yesterday, but so far it's really cool and I'm really gonna love it. Sam likes climbing on the outside of it a lot, but they're really sturdy. He's a good 65 pounds and they haven't tipped over yet. So I really like that. Once they're full and they become a garden, it's really gonna make a big difference. I think it's gonna be a beautiful living wall, and it's just gonna be multifunctional. So here you can see the one that I've already started filling up. So I think it works really well so far. So I figured I'd kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak. And if you look over here in the tree line, there's all this fallen debris. There are leaves, everything else around the garden area, small logs. This all needs to be cleaned up. And I thought, what better way to clean all of this up than begin gathering it? So all the smaller stuff can be kind of raked up, but this big stuff, we're just going to reach down and grab it and just kind of come over here to one of these fences and just toss it in. So that's a really cool way to do it.
Like this?
Yeah, like that. There you go. So whenever you're adding all of this together, you can kind of wet it down, and it'll cause it to break down a lot faster, and you're essentially creating your own compost and your own natural soil, but you're also cleaning up your yard. So you can add any kind of grass clippings, anything from the tree line, old leaves. We have a bunch of old leaves here. So all of this build up right here under our oak tree, this can all be put in there. All of these sticks, I can cut up the logs here and put it in there. Anything that I weed, old hay from the animals, and I don't have to worry about my roots getting burned because I am going to add a good foot of soil, maybe more, up to 18 inches on top of it, so it's not going to burn the roots. I have all of this right here. These are trees that we actually cleared out of the garden area. You can see they're small limbs, so some of these I'll be able to break down with my hands and just toss in there. So it's really going to help clear up all of this space, prevent snakes from hiding under it, because I guarantee you we have a lot of snakes under here. We're in South Texas and that's what we have. And all of this can just go into there and break down. I think it's a really great plan. I'm pretty excited about it. So while I'm here showing you your fence, I'm also going to show you the beginning makings of our wintertime chick brooder. Yeah, so I am no professional. I'm not even going to pretend to be, but I've gotten more independent about trying to build stuff because the only way to learn is by trying it. If you mess up, that's okay. It's going to be for animals. They are not going to care. So what I went ahead and did was take this IBC container out of its cage, and I used a circular saw, and I'll warn you now that it doesn't make the first cut easily. Sometimes it tries to kick back, so be very careful. My saw has a guard, so I wasn't as concerned about getting cut. So here I just made a cut all the way around and opened it up. And the original plan, I know, right? The original plan was to just add some predator wire to it, and this is going to stay too hot to use during the summer, but during the winter months I'll put it inside of my duck coop, and it can incubate all of these babies. It'll keep them the perfect temperature. When they first hatch, they need about 100-degree temperature, and it go down 5 degrees per week until they're fully feathered, so about 8 weeks old. And this is going to save me from having to run heat lamps and really worrying about a fire during the winter time. So I think this is a really great way to, it's kind of like a good version of an off-grid brooder for our chicks, and a great way to stay warm during colder months.
I still can't see it.
Can you see it? It's hard to see with it being so bright outside. And so this can be filled up with hay and everything else. The bonus is that I went ahead and I left this valve on here, and it can be opened up, and this just lifts up and then turns, and once this is off, all the water will come out. So I can just hose it out with our high pressure hose, and which is just a regular water hose with a high pressure nozzle on it, and it'll all come out. Yeah, there are a lot of spiders out here. And so that's just a really easy way to clean it out, especially if you have ducks. I have ducks. It's okay, spiders aren't going to hurt the plastic. Especially if you have ducks, they really love water, and they're really messy creatures. So this just makes it really easy to clean it out. I also thought about cutting one just a foot tall so that the big ducks could go in and out, because right now I have a kiddie pond and it's so messy and so heavy to dump over. Every gallon of water weighs over 8 pounds. Well, this would allow me to spray it out and let it fall out. So I may just go ahead and use one and cut it about this deep all the way around, do it about a foot deep, and then I have a nice little kiddie pool. So all of our IBC containers were at no cost to us. My husband's job was just going to crush them, and it was actually easier and more cost effective for them to just have us haul them off and keep them for ourselves than to have a company come in and crush them. So I did a lot of the work. We're still hosing them out because they previously had palm oil in it. That's really acidic, so it has to be cleaned really well. You can kind of see where I cut this one open because I couldn't get it clean, and it's still pretty dirty inside. But that's it. So I think this is a pretty cool way to use all of the IBC containers too. They're kind of pricey if you're just buying them to do it, but if you can find them for extremely cheap on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, anything like that, or get blessed to find them for free like us, where we just had to do an active service and receive them, then there are a lot of really cool things you can do with these. I think I'm going to put this back inside of the frame and use a grinder to cut the frame on it and make a door. So it'll be a really cool way to kind of open it up, have the chicks protected and off the ground, but also not have to run heat lamps. You can see this is my workstation. These are the bars from off the top of them that I've been gathering. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with all of this. Here are all the bolts. There are quite a bit. They come in 2 different sizes. And, well, no, they're all the same size. I take that back. They use the same bit to take them off, but they're different size screws. So I didn't have to use a different bit, but on these I had to use some channel locks to hold the bottom of it so that I can unscrew it, because these have bolts on it. And those are the tiny 2 that are right by the valve. So that's something to watch out for. This is the saw that I used to cut the IBC container. So like I said, it's nothing special. It's just a saw that I bought for about 135 bucks, including the blades, so no big deal. And then this is the IBC container I showed off earlier that I'm actually going to try doing a deep water cracking method in. It's 300 gallons when it's filled. Up here it's 250. If you fill it all the way up, it's 300. So it's a pretty good amount of water, and it makes a big difference. So I'm going to fill it all the way up right here to the top. I got the proper hydroponic growing solvent, so I think it'll be really cool to see how well this fares. So I hope that gives you a few ideas on what to do and how you can use some IBC containers, whether it's from fencing or creating some greenhouses. If you're like us and your goal is to try to be a little more self-sustainable and maybe not rely on heat lamps and all these other things and kind of use what's available to you, I think it would be a really cool idea. So I hope you enjoyed it.